Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jacob Adams, creator of evolutiontraining.net and author of Your Divine Romance. And this is the Jacob Adams Show. Today, we will be going into meditation, what it is, how, what it's actually done for my life, and a real transparent look on my honest feedback over specifically the last 2 years. Now, as you know, this show is only for, specifically and only for leaders, people that are committed to personal growth, development, and their own evolution. I like going black and white, so I'm going to put this as a black and white, and let's get to it. All right. Well, I just wanted to go in a little bit as to what's been going on. Well, a lot of my work over the course of my 16 years, as I consistently tell you, actually, if you look up, if you Google right now, common sense, self-mastery, Google that, you should see one of my videos. It's one of the things that I'm really looking to bring to the forefront. Now, common sense, self-mastery, I'm composing of, 3 broad elements. Now, these broad elements are composed of several elements, but the 3 broad elements go like this. Have faith, walk with faith, be someone of faith. And then being open, not always trying to change the moment, but also understanding and accepting things for the sake that sometimes you need to accept things in order to change things, right? And then obviously, investing in yourself, investing in who you are as a person. So meditation, believe it or not, encompasses a lot of that, because it's first off and foremost an investment in you. So we're going to go into that. And it's also has a big element of faith. That's actually one of the big reasons I do it. And then obviously being open to, you have to be open to yourself, open to your inner environment, and open to your inner feelings and thoughts and experiences, because really those feelings, those inner experiences are what typically make us want to get out of a meditative state. Okay? So let me go ahead and just make sure that my friends got this video real quick. And well, if you really think about it, look at what does it mean to invest in oneself? And well, I'll start with a quote that was said by James Hollis. He's a writer, and he said that he wrote in his book, he's a Jungian psychologist, James Hollis is his name, and he wrote, "The greatest relationship you're ever going to have is the one you have with yourself." And I think one of the ways this really illustrates to us in life, if we just turn on the television, because TV is popular enough to, or Us Magazine or People Magazine or whatever, we see that consistently. Movie stars, even just recently, I'm pretty sure I heard, stop me if I'm wrong, but Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie broke up. They got divorced, and then Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman divorced, and then we see people like the amazing Robin Williams, who committed suicide back in 2014, I believe, if I remember the year. And we see stars like Heath Ledger, people that end their lives who apparently, at least on the surface, had it all. So as I started experiencing some of the challenges in life, I eventually said, well, look, I need to look at myself. And that's why we're looking at a lot of my life. I started seeing that it was so important to develop that relationship with myself. I'm going to put a timer on just so I have an idea of where we're at with this today's class. Okay? So, well, and one of the people I really enjoy, or who's one of the people, I'll give you another example. One of the people I really enjoy is Lady Gaga and her work, right? And I remember in an interview, she was spoken about by Anna Wintour. I think I was watching the Anna Wintour documentary, and she was saying, oh, we're going to shoot Lady Gaga, etc., right? And Anna Wintour said in a sentence, Lady Gaga is so comfortable with herself, she really knows who she is. And then here we go. She was madly in love with Taylor Kinney, or the actor, and I thought they were going to get married and have babies. And then from what I hear currently is they're also going through a breakup. And again, these people are people with financial affluence, fame, good looks. You get the idea. Like, they pretty much have the entire package as to what we believe should entail a successful outcome. Because when we were brought up, right, me and you were brought up, we're consistently brought up to think, okay, well, go to college, achieve a career, have some level of success financially to support your family, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I started seeing these themes in life, and again, my own struggles, I consistently tell people about the day I was sitting in my office in 2012, where I had every reason to be pretty much fulfilled, and yet I wasn't fulfilled fully, to some extent, yes, but maybe like 30-40% of something within me, 30-40% eventually came to the surface, like, something's not quite right. So I did want to go ahead. I started to look inwardly, or into faith meditation, as the potential missing block as to what would help me close that unknown gap, what it was. Because I felt like I was spinning my wheels. And what I see consistently is that when we spin our wheels as people, whether it's not getting enough growth financially, not enough growth in the love department, in our relationships, not enough growth in the gym, not enough growth in maybe even sleeping enough, we tend to revert to an addiction, a comfort, something that makes us feel good immediately because we're not feeling a level of bliss or fulfillment, and maybe we've tried hard enough for a while. So instead of spinning our wheels, we sort of just go to the quick fix that allows us to get that payoff as fast as possible. And that's what I've seen in my own behavior and in other people's behaviors. I can pretty much set a watch to it that it's a pretty common pattern that I'll see. I can guarantee it. It'll happen at some point, okay? So wanted to bring that to you, and let me see what I have written down for you. So Anna Wintour, Lady Gaga, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. As you like to recap on that, I mean, we see that this is what's going on in our world, that it doesn't necessarily guarantee complete success, okay? And let me just go ahead and share this with my friends so that they have, so that they also can tune in. And come on. And that should give it to my friends there. All right, and so moving on. All right, well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the biggest difference in my life over the course of all this, like especially 2 years. I'm gonna just kind of go through the overall concepts here. Well, meditation came to the surface for me around 2008. I pretty much just wanted to get into be more flexible. Really, like that's 100% what it was. I just wanted to be more flexible. Like really, like I was into bodybuilding quite a bit, and all I did was I just wanted to be more flexible and be a better fitness trainer. So I said, well, look, there's yoga, and it's going to help me be more flexible, and it's going to help me learn another skill in my career. So I was like, well, I'll do yoga because it's going to help me. And I did. Slowly but surely, I got more flexible, and I felt great. I was like, yay, I feel great. I feel flexible. And there wasn't as much guidance at the time. There was nobody really telling me what to do as much as I started feeling it out in my own body. And then that was around 2005, 2006 that I started doing yoga. And then by 2007 or so, I was teaching yoga, and I think I've done about 500 classes or so, give or take, instructed. And then slowly but surely, I found something called hot yoga. And then hot yoga came around, and I went to Bikram yoga, and I loved hot yoga. Now, there was a book there at a yoga studio. This was I think it was Dallas when I first saw the book. I was out of town, and I did hot yoga. And there was a book there called Autobiography of a Yogi. And the Autobiography of a Yogi caught my eye for whatever reason. And at that time, I had an Audible book account. And so I was like, you know what? I mean, I looked for the Audible book of it, and it happened to be there. I was like, sure, I'll put it on. Yeah, I was doing some yoga, and I put on Autobiography of a Yogi. It's that simple. And then what happened then was that I started listening to, and I was like, wow, it's pretty profound. I mean, this guy, Yogananda, wrote about how there was a yogi that wasn't afraid of tigers, and he talked about going to other dimensions. I mean, he was going into some really profound, crazy claims that I thought to myself, what are the chances that somebody's going to say this kind of stuff, or that it's even true, right? So I was like, okay, it sounds great. It's just probably, whatever. He got into something called Kriya Yoga. He started going into how Kriya Yoga is the highway to enlightenment, or the highway to communion with God. And he built up Kriya Yoga significantly in his book. And if you've gone through Yogananda's work, you know that I'm correct on that. He goes into Kriya Yoga quite a bit. That is the legacy, that is his lineage, that is what he teaches, and what Self-Realization Fellowship is built on. So that is what he left my mind in 2008. So now in 2008, I went through my first big breakup. It was like my first breakup. It kind of blindsided me. We weren't getting along all the time, but we were a good match. But, we just wanted different things. I think she wanted a family right away, and I was still not sure where I wanted. So, whatever. Long story short, I got a book called Man's Eternal Quest. Now, that book there, I would carry with me throughout several years, all the way into 2012, when I'm sitting in that office, and I would read an essay every now and then. There were really good essays. He would say things like, "You are a child of God." He would say these things that were they made sense to me. And so it was 2012, I was carrying around this book all the time, and he said, I always tell people the story. It's like, when I read "Your time will come," and when it does, you'll ask yourself, did I make time to get to know him? And I had decided in 2008, after struggling with being an atheist and agnostic and like Catholic religion and Christian religion, I was pretty much burnt out on believing in God for a while. Now in 2008, because of Yogananda's writings and the Purpose Driven Life book, I was willing to open my life back up to God. I was like, let me just have some faith. I feel that's best for me. For whatever reason, that was what I said. Okay? I can't tell you that why fully. It was sort of an intrinsic gut call. Like, it made sense to do it, and I did. So I opened myself up to God again in 2008. Now, it was in 2012 where here I am at the crossroads, kind of having some deeper conviction. Like, maybe I need to go a little deeper than just the surface level, right? And that's when I said, I'm going to start meditating. And now at that time, I was going through my second breakup. So 2008 was one breakup. 2012 is another breakup. That relationship lasted steadily for about a year, and it was going to end. So we were having a long distance relationship, and there it was about to end. And I was like, what am I going to do? It's like, breakups are very painful. I don't have to tell you that. It's probably one of the most painful experiences we experience that aren't like detrimental to our health, but it feels like someone's dying. It feels like a part of us could be dying sometimes. So I was going through my next breakup, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna meditate. I gotta find an answer to, again, spinning my wheels. I was like, am I just spinning my wheels? And I felt like other parts of my life were on a plateau. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do life. There's got to be something that gets to me to that next level of understanding, because I'd already graduated college. I'd already, done some good stuff with my career. I was already strong. I already felt confident. There was a lot of good things. There was a lot of stuff that I really wanted to achieve that I had achieved. Does that make sense? Like, I had already achieved what I wanted to achieve to an extent. Not everything, just a lot of it. And I felt like something was missing. So in 2012, I make the commitment. Now, I kind of rebounded again, and I'll talk a little bit about my codependent stuff. A little bit about that. I felt like I was like, I'm going to be committed. I'm going to, just meditate. I'm going to find enlightenment. I was just so headstrong, right? Now, this headstrongness lasted for about a month. And then I kind of went back into my old cycle of, that a girl came around, and, she was pretty, and I just kind of gave in. and I just went back into the romance and rebounded hard, and this time it ended up being toxic. Now, that said, it was 2014 when I'm spinning my wheels once again. You can't run away forever, right? And that's when I decide, some of my mentors, like people, like I'm going to tell you about, like I started seeing people like one of my main mentors, like Tony Robbins, Neil Strauss, Deepak Chopra, Brendon Burchard, people, Joe Polish, started talking about meditation. And that's where I was like, what? How is it possible that these guys that, like, it seemed like they came out of nowhere, like everybody was in alignment to meditate. And I had already said I was going to do it, right? Like, I'm going to do it. Now these mentors I look up to are saying, do it. And I'm like, oh God. So now it's Yogananda, and it's Tony Robbins, and it's Strauss, and it's, it just goes on, and Burchard, and all these people are talking about meditation. And I'm like, dude, okay, like, I will meditate. So that's when I really started to get into it, okay? So a little bit about how to get into it in case you want to meditate, because we've talked about some of the stuff as to what is not fulfillment, and then that, right? And then we went into a little bit about, how did I get into it? But maybe you want to get into meditation, right? So meditation, is a great way to start meditating is to take a yoga class. Like, that's a great way to start. Well, that's how I started. Obviously, I got into it through yoga, because if I tell you, like, sit down and just breathe for 10 minutes, that's a little more challenging than if you were to just do a yoga class, because the yoga class starts and ends. Meditation, and there's people in the room, and it kind of holds you accountable, but meditation is a little harder because you have to sit down on a chair or on the floor or whatever, and just start focusing on the breath. And that's a little harder. It's a little harder to do that because you start feeling things like inner anxieties, like you want to get up, maybe you think about, I got to get to this project, or am I wasting my time, and man, I just want to call my friend, or you start feeling these things, these sort of addictions, intensities that you're like, you want to change a state. We're driven by pleasure, and it's difficult to sit down and just meditate sometimes. Okay, so one of the best ways to get into it is to yoga. Now, another thing that Burchard, one of my mentors, he likes to teach the release technique. Now, the release technique is pretty simple. Like, you can just YouTube Brendon Burchard release technique meditation, or release technique Brendon, but it looks something like this. It's like he just goes release, but he says it internally. I think you don't have to say it externally. He just goes like release. Okay, so it's pretty cool because it's about letting go. So there's that one. There you could go through the same lessons I got, which is Self-Realization Fellowship, and that you could Google that, Self-Realization Fellowship, and take the online. You could take lessons, have them delivered to your house once. I think it's like one lesson every 2 weeks. And I remember when I first got them, I was like, I just wanted to read. I just wanted to go through the process and master it right away. And here we are all these years later, and I'm just taking my time with it and being very, very patient. So from the first time I heard what meditation is to now, I think it's going like on 9 to 10 years as to when I was sort of had the goal to meditate, to actually now like immersing myself in the practice and actually building my life in it. Okay, so definitely you could even start with Autobiography of a Yogi. That might also be a good thing for you to look into, Autobiography of a Yogi. Okay, now you're gonna want to make it a priority, because if you don't, you're probably not going to do it. Okay, so today I wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened today. Okay, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my main differences from 2014 to 2016. Well, today I woke up, right, and it's Sunday. Sunday's a big day to meditate through through my studies and everything, Sunday is known as the day of light. In other words, the day of sun. And, well, I woke up today and I just chose to watch TV. I chose to watch movies. And that's not like me, but I intentionally chose it. I was like, okay, well, what do I remember about how I used to be? And should I maybe stop meditating today? Like, I wanted to see how much of the meditation was not so pressured from myself. I wanted to see how much of it would come organically. So what I did today was I said, okay, well, I'm going to put on movies. And I started watching movies. I think I watched Cloverfield Lane or something. It was like some movie I rented on iTunes. And I watched some other movie that was like a military movie. And then I started watching YouTube videos and stuff. And I just and then I got into a training. One of my friends did a training online. I got into her like live webinar. And so I just kept pushing the meditation on today, just really pushing meditation to the back burner today. But I did it intentionally. Because I wanted to see when I would step in and just say, take the ball. Almost like eating, right? Like, I don't have to tell you to eat. Like, you can put it aside for a while, but then you just eat. Then like, I'm hungry right now. Like, after so long, you only put it off for so long till you say, I'm gonna eat, dude, I'm hungry. And I wanted to study myself and be like, how much of this is like something that I'm doing out of religious discipline or focus or goals? Like, how much of the goal am I forcing? How much of it am I really doing because it's a true goal, okay? How much of it am I doing it because it's a goal that I love, a goal that is in my heart, right? So I studied myself in that today. In other words, could I walk away from meditation? Could I ever just stop and say, you know what? As much as it's helped me, could I stop? And would I stop? Like, these are challenging questions, right? Because, again, going back to that guy that was just into bodybuilding, I never really signed up for this, like this path to a meal itself. And yeah, I've told you about how my mentors are into meditation. Several mentors, not just one, are into it, how it's become a logical conclusion for me. And so it's like, how did this sort of happen? Like, what in the world freaking happened? I never thought this would be me at all. Like, so I'm like, I wondered, there's nobody really hold me accountable to meditate. Nobody tells me, you should meditate. It's really more an intrinsic drive. And so now I'm like, well, I studied myself today as I watched movies. I'm like, can I stop? Can I just stop meditating and just put it aside? And so I took a moment today and said, well, what's the difference between 2014 and 2016? 2 years ago when I delved in really deep, what's the differences? The biggest differences I have between the 2 years is that in 2014, I was going through a heartbreak, like depressed, didn't want to be by myself. I also didn't have a lot of direction. Like, I knew obviously I was going to work out. Obviously that was what I wanted to do, but I was also at an odds as to how to dig deeper and where to go next. So I didn't have the clarity. I didn't have enough clarity. So I was an emotional wreck, really, inwardly, because of like the heartbreak. Does that make sense? So because of my heartbreak, I was going through like this really big, just inner turmoil. And then I said, okay, so if I'm codependent, I kind of plead guilty to being codependent now, and it's not something the proud me many years ago would not have liked me saying that. I would have been like, don't say that, don't ever say that. I'm just trying to be real so that you can understand that was sort of my revelation. That, okay, well, how come I can't sit alone for 30 minutes? How come it freaks me out? Like, it makes me feel uneasy to be alone in a quiet room for 30 minutes with a candle on or something. Like, why does that really, like, it's not that it's impossible. It wasn't impossible, but it was weird that I couldn't do it that easy. Like, I was like, but that's just sitting down and breathing. So why couldn't I do it? So again, in 2014, I was that guy. I had to take 60. I made YouTube videos about it where I was like, I'm gonna take 60 days to meditate. So I moved to Austin, and then I actually stopped meditating. As much as it took me to build up to it in 2015, it was kind of hit or miss. I think I was only meditating Sundays. So then in 2016, and one of the things I found interesting was that the people in my life at that time that were yogis too, like, we weren't always hanging out. So it was like I really had to make really good friends with myself, and that was the goal anyway. But I just found it so weird. I was like, dude, you really have to make friends with who you are as a person. And so again, 2014, breakup, sad, not enough direction, not enough internal fulfillment. Now in 2016, I don't think I've reached the nirvana of meditation. I don't think that I'm at some crazy level. I will tell you that I do feel more clarity. I do feel more trust, more faith. The heartbreak is something I sometimes laugh about now. So something that broke my heart once, a while back, I now sort of laugh about at times. Not all the time, but just sort of like, if I think about the girl, like, there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, like, we were ridiculous. Does that make sense? So the 2 years have, with meditation, I'm not saying only meditation, it's not only been meditation. I'm not just going to say, man, it's all meditation. Again, I'm a very sort of balanced person in my perspective, like, in what I conclude things. And so now I feel good. I feel ready to one day soon. Now I'm open up to a soulmate now versus 2012. I was like more cynical about a soulmate. I just pretty much thought that was bullshit, and it was all about, the intimacy and the romance and the relationship, and I didn't have a lot of structure to my overall relationships. It's just what felt right, what looked right, what made sense on some levels, and some of that was good thinking. It's just that I also sort of gave up on relationships sometimes, or the right ones, and kept the wrong ones. It's like Aerosmith said, I kept the right ones out and let the wrong ones in. Had an angel of mercy to see me through all of my sins. And then, so yeah, there's some of the main things. Let me see. I wrote some things down here. True confidence is the ability to trust yourself. It's not necessarily predicting the future as much as trusting yourself to figure it out and act right. And in many ways, that's what I did today. I said, I want to see how far I can get away from meditation for today, and before I immerse myself into it, almost just to see, this is my baseline. Like, this is pretty much what I'm going to gravitate to regardless. And, this week, I skipped a few days, and I noticed that it was pretty stressful. It was pretty stressful those days that I did skip meditation. Probably the worst days of my week were the days I skipped it. So I do see a huge difference. I mean, we're talking about a good 30 to 40% reduction in overall focus, overall intrinsic connection with myself, just overall bliss, and just it's sort of like out of my game now when I don't meditate. So a little bit about that. I hope that makes some sense as to what's happened since I stopped meditating, or since I started meditating 2 years ago specifically. So to recap, I wanted to tell you a little bit about how meditation does connect. It's sort of part of all things that are being open. It's part of having faith. It's part of connecting with yourself, or investing in you. And while it's so simple, it's part of the process of self-mastery, and even what I call common sense self-mastery. And then we also talked about how we see people like Lady Gaga, who is awesome, beautiful, awesome, talented singer. We see people like that who sometimes still aren't getting everything they want. And sometimes, I know I've heard her say in her concerts that she's depressed sometimes. You see what I'm saying? So even somebody at that level is depressed. So that tells you a lot about people and what makes us drive and what really gives us fulfillment. And so I really do propose then that meditation is one of the keys to tapping into fulfillment. It doesn't mean you're not going to have really crappy emotions sometimes. I'm not trying to say that either, because I've also experienced some really intense negative emotions in 2 years. Not a lot of them, but definitely have. Some doubts, some criticisms, some, but with meditation, I've been able to dig deep and push through and find a different answer, or trust myself to keep going. Trust myself with that next move. In the face of those oppositions or that resistance, I've turned to meditation to dig deeper and keep going. And so, again, I'm not trying to tell you that meditation is the end-all, be-all answer to everything. We still need to have strategy, talk to mentors, read books, keep evolving, keep pushing, keep studying, and have a realistic approach to life. At the same time, while that is true, is that other half. There's a mysticism to life that I see meditation does fulfill, a certain sense of connection to self, openness to faith in God, that is powerful. And also we talked about how it's been an interesting 2 years in retrospect, and I'm only looking to get deeper into meditation in 2017. I've written a book on meditation, and here we are, I'm still analyzing the process and being scientific about it. So that's also some stuff we recapped. One of the things that I started back in 2008 or so, Kriya Yoga, is something that I've applied for twice and been denied twice the skill. And part of the reason is it's as simple as when I apply for it, and this is, again, through this Self-Realization Fellowship. It's not just anything that you just get. It's like you're initiated into this deep teaching, spiritual teaching, and you say, I'm in alignment with Guru Yogananda, and so it's a very sacred teaching to get. And so in 2017, it'd be great if that happened, but it's in God's hands. I've developed a lot of patience in things to dig deeper within myself, to find where that part of me is patient, and that's a big strength that I would tell you meditation will definitely help you with your patience, because it's all about breathing in the moment and accepting all of your internal stuff and feelings and vibrations and insecurities and doubts. And so it definitely helps you get really comfortable in those moments where it's difficult for you to be okay with things, and acceptance. Okay, so this is Jacob Adams signing off. The next time, stay tuned for the next one, the next video we make. This one was on meditation. The one before was on moving the needle. The next live show will be something really special. Stay tuned for that. This one right here was just a bonus one I just wanted to do on a Sunday, looking at meditation. How good is it? Really, no BS, no glitz and glamour, just real basic truth analyzation of meditation. Okay, so we'll see you next time. Jacob Adams signing off. Peace. Let's see if I try that.